I like hearing stories about authors for some reason. A lot of times they're more endearing than hearing stuff about like the other entertainment fields. I don't know why.
Because I think authors are like reclusive people. Like they're introverts in a way.
There's also like this. I mean, I guess I can't speak for all of them, but there seems to be like this air of humility too that you don't really see in other aspects, even if they're very successful. So even Stephen King, for the longest time, had multiple times in his career where he like would write books under different pseudonyms, just to. Because he wanted to know personally, like,
is my writing selling?
I don't want my name. Stephen King's son, Joe Hill, does not put King on his books because he doesn't want to be like, oh, it's Stephen King's son.
Yeah.
And he's made a pretty great career.
I honestly totally get that. Like, to a degree, you know what I mean? Like, everyone has that spark of wanting to be remembered after they die, like that infamy, fame, need to have a permanence, and that's why authors write to some degree. That's why anyone who does any content creation, anyone who creates, anyone who has a creativity spark, partly it's for their own vanity of making something and their own intellectual endeavor to do it. Partly it's to like have a level of permanence. Like you want something to survive past you going into the grave. And I think authors kind of have a better understanding, grasp of it. And just they want to just be people who wrote and have like a legacy based on that, rather than like, say, actors, actresses, athletes who are more into it for the fame while on Earth.
I guess I can't speak too much good on Martin, even though he's sort of a genius in his own regard, but he's also a lazy F. Well, I guess I can't call him lazy because he is doing other projects. He's just his adamant refusal to his fans to finish those books.
No, but like I think Martin's not necessarily that it's a case of he's just being defiant and not wanting to end it. I think there's a lot of factors to him. I was getting a lot of weird letters saying, like, you better write this shit before you die. Right. I remember he one time angrily, it was either a Twitter or some sort of thing on social media where he's like, stop asking me if I'm going to finish this before I die. Well, or like, it was sort of like an angry tweet. I mean, to his defense on that one, like, can you imagine we're like daily, you're getting
thousands
emails. Right. Like, it's probably literally thousands
There's
daily.
Probably some angry ones at this point where it's like, you fat fuck, you better,
Right. Write my favorite, like, so almost like misery level.
Like, how dare you fuck Elden Ring?
Yeah.
Why you wouldn't...
You're writing Fire and Blood too?
I mean, how many... Yeah.
Right? I want to know if Stannis burns Shireen or not.
How many years has he said Winds of Winter will be out next year? He's done that at least 5 times now, I think.
And
right?
and that's... I will put blame on him for that.
Absolutely. Stop giving unrealistic...
Like the false hope bullshit.
Yeah, because that seems like it's trolling at this point. You can't keep saying that.
Especially when we know he's already got like 9 other projects he's juggling.
I just imagine that like... Yeah, it's like the shine. Like eventually he dies, and somebody goes through his writings. Like, okay, let's ghostwrite this bitch here.
Yeah.
And they get Brandon Sanderson, who ghostwrote like Wheel of Time, and it's like I imagine Brandon Sanderson getting in there like to finish up. He goes, all right, what does he have written so far? And he's got like this big manuscript book, and he opens it up, and it's just like the Jack Nicholson all work and no play, like 900 pages of that.
Yeah.
Like,
I think we've discussed. I doubt we've done it on air or anything, but I know we've discussed the one interview at like, I don't want to say it was Gen Con, but there's just an interview where like, it's a panel of authors and stuff, and Martin was there and Stephen King was there.
Yeah. I've seen the clips on YouTube.
Right. And like Stephen King, like he's like, I write like 400 books a year, 200 short stories a year, and all this stuff. And Martin's just like watching him like talk about this, like, he's like, how the fuck do you do that?
How the fuck do you write so many books so fast? I think, I've had a really good 6 months. I've written 3 chapters, and you've finished 3 books in that time.
He straight up does ask him, and he's just like, oh, I sit down, I'll write like 30 pages, and I won't stop until I get my 30 pages done for the day. And then Martin was like, well, every time I do that, I wonder if there's something tasty in the fridge or something like that. I get distracted or whatever.
I feel like it's almost too easy to say like a fat person joke, but like it's in that vein.
It's a shame that like this project will more than likely go unfinished.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the show definitely did him no favors in that aspect. I mean, the show did him favors in obviously being a rich man given creative stuff, but like
I would say a lot more eyes got onto the books because of the show.
Right.
I read the books because of the show.
Right. But I mean, it did him no favors in the sense of completing his work because the show beat him to it. You know what I mean? The show outlived him.
He told D&D, the writers, that he was going to have Winds of Winter out before they caught up to it. And he did not fulfill that promise.
No, that's on him.
And D&D aren't good writers, and they botched it. I think most people would agree.
There's definitely writer's block to a degree. I mean, he has gone on the record and said there's two types of writers. Like the gardener and like the forceful, like... There's like the writer who lets the flowers grow naturally and just, this is how they grow, and there's like slight trimming, right? And weeds
it's
around
like an artist sort of thing.
Yeah. Or there's the writers who are very adamantly, like the ones who are, who can shape the trees. I don't know what the name is for it, like a horticulturist or whatever, but like, or like take a topiary tree and make it into the shape of a bunny rabbit or whatever by hedging it and stuff like that. And that's like you have like the authors who have a very distinct outline, like A1, A2, A3, B, B1, B2, C, you know. And then you have like Martin who just wants to let like this character will just do whatever that character does. And he almost like method acts for each character. And when he's Stannis is going to do what Stannis does because he's method acting and that's how it is. But he also has like an end goal, and to like let these characters interweave their own stories while knowing you also have to get them from A to B. You're gonna get into some messy areas where like you're gonna have to force your hand into it, and I don't know if he's able to do that enough.
Do you think he's a bit passionless though on the idea of like the actual just like the legwork of writing itself? Do you think he's sort of like getting going? Like Stephen King seems to enjoy the legwork,
right?
Being because that's always been King's thing. Even when he preached to like up and coming writers, like in his like seminars or his book, he always wrote like just write. Doesn't just if that's his best advice he can give to a writer is just sit down and start writing. Whether like
you can always delete and edit. You can always delete after,
but just that raw experience you'll start to fall in love with the act of writing itself, and that's I think. Very good advice, because getting started is the hardest thing.
As a writer myself, and someone who has ADD, ADHD, whatever the term is.
You're going to make me put all those letters up.
I will get to the computer and sit down. I'm like, I'm going to write this article. I'm going to write this thing for the blog. I'm going to do this thing. And then like I get like maybe a sentence into it, and it's like, boo, squirrel. Or I won't even start it. And the problem is then like, if I wanted to write something and I gave myself the deadline, like, all right, Friday night, 8 p.m. is done. And I get to like Friday at like 7:30 p.m. I'm like, well, I'm not going to hit that deadline. Then screw it. I'm not even going to bother tonight. And then it becomes Saturday. Then it becomes Sunday. Then it becomes Monday. And I'm like, well, now I'm a week behind. Like, what's even the point?
Definitely, definitely a result of a problem with some people aren't good being their own boss.
Yes.
Because like for me, like I have the same issue when it comes to like some editing some of our episodes. So yesterday, I actually had a little bit of a head cold, but like I ended up sitting down and I knocked out almost all of episode 3 in just one sitting. It took about 7 hours straight, but like I put movies on in the background and I got into the zone.
Yeah.
Like I knocked it all out.
There isn't like that flow, zone.
But I put it off for like 2-3 days straight where I'm like, I really don't want to work on this thing. I don't want to. But then eventually I just sort of did it. And I don't know where that energy sort of came from, but
procrastination is a bitch though in a way.
You can tell that it's easier for some people like Stephen King, it seems like he's just been doing it so long. I'm not sure if he had this problem when he was a younger man, because it is easy to just say, especially when you're as successful as Stephen King.
Well, right.
It's easy to say just right. There's probably a lot of people that sometimes you can be your own worst critic too, where you start writing, you're like, fuck, this is horrible.
And I think there also has to be a sense of like you're willing to put certain things on back burner, and you're like obviously if you have jobs and you have to work for income, then doing any creative content around that gets backburnered. Like,
and it's all your spare time.
Right. And then if you have family life, like kids, spouse, whatever, back burner. If you have hobbies that are not the hobby that you're working on. And sometimes even having a hobby that is what your content creation, what you're writing about, what you're creating about, is actually almost a detriment in a way. Like, for me, like, I want to go to breweries, I want to do things, and then write about it. But then it's like, the more I write about it, it takes away the time from doing what I want to do, and vice versa. If I do too much of the stuff and don't write about it, then it doesn't correlate, and it also then almost makes it a chore. Like, okay, I should go to a new brewery or something so I can write about it. And I'm like, am I going to this place because I want to go to this place and enjoy myself and have a good time and drink and have fun? Or am I doing it out of like a sense of a job?
Right.
And then you start making your hobby, your fun time, your whatever, into a job.
I'm going to just post a picture of James Rolfe on because that is the prime example of like somebody who likes, he was a trailblazer in, AVGN in those videos, but like you can tell now if you've watched any of his content recently, it's like that's exactly what the channel's worth so much money that he can't quit. Every video.
I watched him do like the Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know if he got like a pre-screening like demo of it, or
Maybe he might have,
or if it was like right as it came out, and he would talk about like how his kids played and stuff, and he kind of seemed genuinely happy in that. And then when the video ended and went to another recent one of his, like it looped in, and I was like, all right, sure, yeah, I'll let it just play through to his next one.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what game it was, but it was like an older, nostalgic like one, like an NES game or something. And there was definitely a pitch difference in his tone, in his delivery, and just like his enjoyment behind it.
Like his original reviews he remembers these games from his childhood. And he had a lot of similar complaints that other people had at the time. At the time, we didn't really have much to. There was no internet. And there was no reviews for
like
games.
When we're doing like you're talking about like NES.
Yeah, NES. We remember that first TMNT game with the dam level, and and that game has a lot of problems outside of the dam level. But
any of the sewer levels,
like the little jump that you actually walk over, you can't actually. If you try and jump over it, you will fall every time. Yeah. Like there's problems with the game itself. Castlevania 2, like those old things. Like he actually was very passionate about. When he got really big with YouTube, or at the time it was like Screw Attack or some other website, but then he's transitioned over to YouTube when everyone else did, when they became like the main,
the predominant, like they became the Facebook,
the main place where you could make a career out of.
The MySpace.
And he started doing his horror movie reviews every October, and that's where he got in trouble with the.
Is that the copyright thing?
With the copyright,
or plagiarism, or whatever you want to call it.
That was where it sort of became hardcore public news. That it was almost like insulting on different levels. If you were a huge James Rolfe AVGN fan, I used to listen to all of his horror reviews. I really haven't, because like when it came out that he wasn't even writing them, like he was outsourcing them to I think Screenwave or whatever it's called. But like he was having
GPT now.
He was having other people write his reviews, and then he would just get like the script and read it and film himself reading somebody else's words.
I mean,
like that's. People are watching you they want your insight, not somebody else's.
If you knew going in he was an actor in the sense of like say, I don't know, Morgan Freeman does it, right? Like he's an actor.
Oh yeah.
It's not a big deal. Like this isn't Morgan Freeman's words.
But if you're packaging it as Morgan Freeman's take on...
Right.
I think it was 28 days later, 28 weeks later, but...
And that's where the problem is on that level.
But it's like, why would I just watch that guy? But then it turns out that the guy he outsourced it to
is probably not charismatic.
Full on plagiarized
the
review.
Oh, that's right. That's the guy. That was the double level to
it was 28 days later, where and nobody involved in the production, because at that point James had other people. He had apparently writers writing their own things.
Yeah.
He didn't even edit his own stuff. He literally was just the screen presence at that point.
Well, so when I will watch a little bit of YouTube. But generally, just when I'm in the mood for things, like, all right, new Ahsoka episode, I'll watch, like, Critical Drinker or EFAP or whatever about it. Or, like, about my blog, I'll read or watch, like, some blogging, like, help, like, videos and stuff, like SEO type stuff, things like that. I was big into, like, a few philosophy channels, like Wisecrack, 60 Minutes of Philosophy, things like that. And I could kind of put on almost like podcast style and listen to. And it's interesting seeing the evolution of them from like when they started. And like you can clearly tell it's like two dudes doing it or something to like, okay, we're now getting like 8,000, 10,000, 12,000 subscribers. And that's correlating to like 15 to 20,000 views. We can now start actually... We have an intern who is like off screen actually doing camera position. It's not like a static tripod. Yep. We have a written, like everything we've always done. I don't think there's been a single time we've ever actually had a written
Well, no.
like thing in front of
Well,
us.
I've never been. I never have attempted it. Maybe I'm awesome at it. I don't know. I'm going to assume I'm not, but especially with no practice. But you've got those like video essayists,
right.
That are
that's
really
what,
good.
And that's what this was. Yeah.
Really good at what they do. Like when Mahler makes a video, it's a long actual essay that he's scripted, he's worked over, he's edited, edits all himself. It takes months and months and months to produce one video because of how long it is and how much effort goes into it.
Because he's doing like a 5-hour, 4-hour some video. Right.
But then he's got his EFAP where he's just talking with his friends. And they're
like a Discord.
They're breaking down through Discord or whatever. But then you have a critical drinker who makes his videos. His videos are like only 10 to 12 minutes.
Right.
Most of his, and he releases like usually one a week. And then he's also got his personal podcast. I think comes on Thursdays with Mahler and
the Open Bar one.
Open Bar, yeah.
Yeah.
Open Bar is a good listen. I usually put it on.
I like the intro to Open Bar. Is pretty cool.
Their little rock song with him and Mahler.
And we're like, grab a wine.